Class and instance members. A member, either a variable or a method declared within a class, is an instance member. The runtime system creates one copy of each instance variable for each instance of a class created by a program. An instance member is initialized to its default value. Here is an example with two data instance members, color and year of manufacturing, and one instance method, changeCare. Now let's look at how an object and its instance members are created. Here I have a class car, same as what we have seen in the previous slide. Car1 is an instance of class car which can hold a reference of car object. Now, how does an object of car get created? When I say new car, the JRE creates an object of car and returns the reference or address to car1. Now let's see what happens when I create another object. Here, another object of class car is created and the reference is assigned to car2, another instance of class car. A class member is declared by using a static modifier. Only one copy of that member would be shared by all objects. Here in this slide, we have created two objects of class car, both having separate instance members. This is so because all members of class car are instance members. Now let's look at an example. In this example, I have created a static string class name and assigned the value class name is equal to static demo, which is the name of the class. Now let's print the value of class name. Here, if you have noted, I have not created any object for the class static demo. However, I am using the class name to refer to the static member, which is static demo.className. Now when I run this, it would print me the value static demo, as you can see here in the output window. Here is an example where I want to explain you the difference between a class and an instance member. In this example, I have an instance member, instance integer, and a class member, class integer. As you already know, static members are created in the stacks at the program initialization time, and instance members are created at the runtime in the heap memory. Therefore, the class integer is already created even when there is no object for class member demo. Now, on creation of the object for class member demo, the instance integer is created in the heap memory. Static methods of a given class can directly access the static variables of the same class. Now let's look at an example on this. In this example, we have two static members, static string class name and static void display. Here, the method display can directly access class name. It need not create an object or refer to the class name in order to access another static member. As you can see here, I need not use an object, or I need not create an object nor use the static demo, which is the class name, in order to refer to the class name. Static methods cannot directly access instance members. The number of instances that get created for a given class is dependent on the runtime. That is, the number of objects created for a given class in a program. Further, the memory allocation is also dynamic. Now coming to the static methods, they are created much earlier than the objects. As you can see here, the static members are already loaded into the stack memory, much before the objects were created. And therefore, static members cannot directly access non-static members. Now let's refer to an example. In this example, I have used an instance member iMember and a class member static void display, from where I'm trying to print the instance member iMember, as you can see at line 20. Such an access of instance member from a static member would result in a compilation error. Non-static variable iMember cannot be referred from a static context, is the error message. And now it's time for us to work on the Java Virtual Guru examples to have a better understanding of class and instance members. Static blocks. Static initializer blocks can be used to initialize static variables when the class is loaded. The code in the static initializer block is executed only once by the Java virtual machine. Static blocks cannot return. They are simply nameless blocks of code that execute in the order they are specified. Static blocks of code cannot refer to this or super keywords. Static block example. In this example, I have a class bulk user which has an instance member int watts and a static member bulk count. Further, I have created a static block at line 18 and a constructor bulk user at line 22. And then I have a class main where I am creating two objects for bulk user. What I want to demonstrate here is that the static block is executed even before the objects are created. And then it's executed only once. Now let's look at how this program works. The program execution begins from the first statement in public static void main. The control then moves to the static block of bulk user. Here it initializes the bulk count and then prints the message. Static block is executed only once. and then the control moves to the bulk user constructor. Here it initializes the bulk counter, or rather increments the bulk counter, and then prints the message. Bulk user constructor and the value of the bulk count, that is 1. Now the control comes back to the public static void main. Now it tries to create the second object. But if you have noticed here, the control does not go to the static block but directly comes to the constructor trying to create the second object. It increments the bulk counter further and then prints the message bulk constructor. This time the value is 2, and then moves back to the public static void main. And now the control comes out of public static void main. If you notice the output here, the static block is executed only once, is printed once, but then the message from the constructor, bulk user constructor, is printed twice. This proves that a static block is executed only once, irrespective of the number of objects created in the program. Instance initializer blocks. Instance initializer blocks are used to initialize instance variables. An instance initializer block is one which executes once for every object created. However, static block is executed only once. This block is executed when the class is first loaded. Before you move on to the next section, I think you should work on the examples provided in Java Virtual Guru to have a better understanding of the static and instance blocks.